Hey up and welcome to the Temple of Blair. This is a conversation which you could consider to be the sequel to the Ro Kohli episode. This is the chat with Justin Sprauer. Justin was part of the Roadrunner Road Crew. Fuck me, that sounds horrible in a Yorkshire accent. He was part of the street team for Roadrunner towards the end of its independent life throughout the Warner acquisition. So Justin tells me the stories of how he got engaged with the Road Crew, the various activities which he undertook as part of the Road Crew, and the many stories from those days. During this conversation, Justin makes plenty of references to items, merch, things like that, which he has acquired over the years. So you might not see all of those items and merch and whatnots on the video feed of this podcast, but you can if you go and follow Justin on Facebook and Twitter as TheConcertCruizer, Cruiser with a Z. I'll put links in the description and all that stuff. Anyway, let's jump into it. 1, 2, fuck shit up. Context for your entry into this Roadrunner project is Corey Taylor had an interview with someone that was posted on Ultimate Guitar, as most things are, and he was talking about the closure of the office, and my mate Shab spotted your comment underneath saying, I was part of the road team, I've got some fucking good stories, it was a great time. So I thought, you know what, I've been looking into like the as well as like the history of the label in general, some of the more off-piste things that they used to do. And I got speaking to Ro Kohli, who was the king of the street team back in like 2000 to 2003. So I was interested to hear your perspective as we sort of move our way through away from the independent Roadrunner into the Warner Roadrunner. Because you see, from what I gather, you were there for both sides of that coin.
Sort of, yeah. Basically, I'm trying to think of, I believe I joined back in 2010, I think, if memory serves correct. And during that time, they were transitioning from the as you said, the independent Roadrunner to the Warner Roadrunner. But it didn't really come into effect until the end of my time with them, which was around 2013, maybe 14. So by that time, they were still, everything was still going as you would think it would. They were sending us out to concerts. They were sending us tons of swag. You would discover where to meet up with the bands. So I just caught the tail end of the indie Roadrunner era. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the engagement model, which sounds like a very corporate way of saying, how would they keep in touch with you, and how would they keep you in the loop as to what was happening, and how would they say, right, Justin, get down to the fucking House of Blues, do this, do that?
We would friend our boss, who I unfortunately cannot remember his name right now, and on Facebook. There may have been some sort of a Facebook group towards the end of my time with them, but I can't really remember. But I do remember we did have a direct access to our boss. And to be honest, I actually preferred that model. I didn't like the idea of some hub where all of us gathered together, just because I've been in situations like that, and people will have a tendency to bring their family drama with what's going on. Now, and to be fair, it's not that this drama of theirs isn't serious. A lot of them do go through hard, difficult times. However, we're at work. Yeah, once we got our mission, we have our assignments, then we can talk. Just make sure we got our assignments from our boss. We go to the show, do what we have to, have fun. Then afterwards, okay, what's been going on with your family? Then we can talk. And I remember, and I think I actually only had one assignment, or at least one where a partner showed up to the event that I can recall, which was my very first one, and that was Theory of a Dead Man when I lived in Buffalo, New York. Now, regardless of what anybody thinks of Theory of a Dead Man, that side of New York, Western New York, the Buffalo area, and that whole entire section up north is very depressing. So a band like Theory of a Dead Man and their music really connects to that type of people. It's not a snap on them or anything.
Oh no, it's a very, very perceptive connection.
Well, I learned a long time ago from Richard ZK of Rammstein, because he said in another podcast, wherever your albums sell, that's where you tour. So if you're an American band but your albums are selling in Japan, you tour Japan. If you're an African band and your albums are selling in Canada, then you tour in Canada. That's just how the model was at the time, and I think it still is now. You just got to go where your audience is, and their audience was that area of New York.
Yeah. So, what in terms of I was just saying the engagement is you start out in a sort of like linear unilateral model where you knew the guy, there was a hierarchy, and then it became like a hub. And then obviously as things get with social media, things start to get a bit muddy. And yeah, fair enough. I mean, I guess it's probably worth mentioning like the remit of the street team as it stands. They're effectively, as I understand it, you can obviously redefine this and correct me wherever you see fit. Free labor on a promotion is free labor doesn't really, free labor is a disingenuous way of looking at it.
Well, you could say it was free labor because it was volunteer work. We did in fact volunteer. It's like, hey, do you want to sign up? By doing this, we will send you, all the swag. We will give you a free ticket, and you'll have a chance to win prizes, which I'm sure you'll ask me about later. So yeah, you could say it was free labor, but it was something that we agreed on. We knew going in that we were not going to get paid for this. We did it because, well, for one, you got free tickets to a concert. I mean, how can you turn that down?
Yeah, this is it. You joined the marketing arm of that particular locale and that particular location for wherever the gig was, and you got goodies in return, which stacks up.
Yeah. So at least to someone like me who was to this day is still an avid concert goer, it's like, fuck yeah, why did I sign up?
So why Roadrunner and not, say, I don't know if Jive is still going. I think Jive is still going, but there's a few street teams out there, isn't there?
There's some. Believe it or not, the street team I got my start with was actually not for a particular label, but from an actual street team website called Streetwise Concept and Culture. And they did everything from movies, music, video games. Like I remember they gave us demo discs for a Crash Bandicoot game at one point. Yeah. And they even gave us swag for movies like Identity, a game like True Crime, I think it is. I can't quite remember. But the stuff you got were like DVDs, stickers, pencils, posters, and like even when they did Fun with Dick and Jane, they gave you like little hats and like those beanies that had like that looked like the kind of like a crook would wear. You would only see the eyes. So I got my start with that. Then that started to drift away, and I noticed that individual bands start to have their own street teams. Papa Roach, Linkin Park, Korn, which I was on for theirs as well. Theirs operated somewhat similar, where again they would still send you swag and you would actually type out a report of what you did with all this stuff. You would take pictures of you hanging it up or giving it to people. You would then post it on one of these photo album websites like PhotoBucket. I'm not sure if that's the site still around anymore. And then you would and then you would send them the link with the report. Although I will say I was at a serious advantage because at the time I worked in the electronics department at Walmart, so I could actually try to sell their CDs there. So I would type in, I sold this many albums for them, and they would actually have this ranking, like maybe a top 20 ranking of their best street teamers. And needless to say, I definitely made it to the top of Korn and Linkin Park's. And when you did that, you could actually meet them at their next big concert. Like I met Korn at, I think it was Family Values 2006 during that time. I met Linkin Park. That was actually the second time I met Linkin Park, actually, at Project Revolution 2007. Again, just for their street team. And it was, honestly, it was a lot of fun to just kind of go around and just like start handing this stuff out and just seeing people's reaction, like, oh my God, because I mean, I look at that swag as like seeing like, it's like getting a little guitar pick. It's like a tiny little memento of the show or the experience. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a tiny piece of plastic, but you got something for free at this event and it touched people. And it went from that to Roadrunner. And when I did Roadrunner, I got this giant box in the mail, and my folks were like, Justin, what is this? Like, I don't know, let's open this thing up. I ripped this thing open, and I am just seeing a ton of swag for so many bands. And my folks are like, did you win a contest or something? I don't know. And because and the same thing happened with Papa Roach. I got another big, huge package from them, and like, what's a Papa Roach? Like, it's a band. How I got all this, I don't know. Although oddly enough, I have a bit of a small connection with Papa Roach. They don't know me or anything, but when just before their debut album came out, I got a small little promo cassette tape of their songs that had their address on it. I listened to it, typed them up a letter, sent it to them. 4 weeks later, I get a letter back from them, and I still have.
2000.
Yeah, I still have it to this day. It's up on my wall right now.
What the fuck? That's crazy.
I've taken it to several shows, going, "Hey guys, I got this from you." You're like, "Oh my god!" And I've done this like maybe 3 or 4 times, and they haven't. And my, I guess my face is not quite sunk into their memory yet. However, one thing that helps is if you wear the same shirt at every single show. And being a plus size guy, I wore this light blue shirt that says "I beat anorexia," and at least their guitar player went, "Hey, I know you, don't I?" So when you got all this stuff, for me at least, they actually got my email address wrong. So I had no idea where all this came from. But judging from, like I said, the swag, they were all Roadrunner bands. So I went to the website to check. And sure enough, I actually made the cut for the team. Mm-hmm. And I had
let's unpack that a bit, because when you say it made the cut, is there a vetting process?
Because I do remember some of the questions they asked you were, do you have a cell phone? Do you have a camera? Because at the time, smartphones still have not taken off. Do you have your own set of wheels? And I'm pretty sure that was part that contributed to it, because at the time, yeah, I did have my own vehicle. I did have a cell phone, and I did have a digital camera, because obviously, a disposable camera is not going to cut it for something like this. So I'm pretty sure that played a factor into whether or not you got selected. And at the time, Buffalo was still a hotspot for bands to tour in. When I lived in that area of New York, the best venue, or at least the venue they kept going to, was a place called the Town Ballroom. And I found out that there's like maybe 3 or 4 other venues within that area. Mm-hmm. So bands of all sizes and stature would go there. Everyone from a band like Trivium to a band like Animals as Leaders. So yeah. Buffalo. So I'm pretty sure that's what they saw in me and what I could do for them. And obviously that led to Pennsylvania, that led to Ohio. And so I'm pretty sure they looked at location, transportation, communication, and photography as part of the vetting process.
It makes sense. I remember when I was speaking to Ro, he said at the start of the whole thing, they had like 200,000. No, it can't have been 200,000. It might have been 20,000 email addresses and like contacts for street teamers. And he was like, well, I can't control that many people. We've got to do like a vetting process, because, otherwise you're just fucking burning money. You're burning it.
Plus, not to mention, these people, you don't know whether or not these people are actually going to do the job. Yep. You could be sending them all the swag, and who knows if they're even doing what you sent them out to do. So I'm pretty sure they had to whittle it down from when you submitted for your first assignment and whether or not you did a good enough job. I mean, if there were small little things you could have done to tweak your job, then yeah, they would tell you. Like if you hang a poster up somewhere, you don't take a picture of the poster. You got to step back and take a picture of the surrounding area. So that way, especially if people are crossing it, then they'll know, oh, okay, yeah, this is where people can see the poster. But if you kept screwing up, I have to imagine that you were probably let go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So why Roadrunner though? That's what we skipped over that bit.
Yeah, basically I just noticed that somewhere around the early 2000s, like I want to say maybe 2001, music shops, CD stores, record stores, whatever you want to call them, were still popular social hangout places. And I just kept noticing, like you, that tiny little red rectangle that kept popping up on the spines of all the CDs I was interested in. And I just kept going, what the heck is Roadrunner Records? And so when I got home, did some research and went, whoa, these are all the bands they got? Fuck yeah! Like, Roadrunner's awesome! And that's what introduced me. And matter of fact, when I went to Ozfest that year, I actually went I've been to like maybe 8 different Ozfests, and I just noticed that, their bands kept popping up on the tour. And that was another indication, like, what's going on here? Who are these guys? And when I went to, because I don't think there was any Roadrunner bands on 2000. I might be wrong, but I don't recall. But I do know that Slipknot and Spineshank were on 2001. And again, that's when I started noticing that Roadrunner was becoming a force in the metal world, because they kept sponsoring all these different tours and festivals. And that's how I got to know the name. And they kept handing out, as you saw, little CD samplers. Yeah. And of course, they made sure that their logo was stamped all over these things.
That is still in its saran wrap.
Yeah, this actually came from Fort Rock, I think back in 2017 or 18. And matter of fact, I remember telling them towards the end of my tenure that I think it's time to bring these back, promotional CDs, because while smart technology is definitely convenient, I will never take that away, there is something a bit more impactful about handing someone a CD that's professionally made sleeve, saran wrapped. You're at a concert and you go, here, check this out on your way home. So you take this, you rip it out, you throw it in your CD player, and I just think it makes a bigger impact. Well,
it's never been cheaper to produce, and the Spotify algorithm isn't sophisticated enough to give us a similar experience or give us a similar recommendation, because it's like, all right, you've spent 7 hours listening to Trivium and Slipknot, maybe you'll like Metallica. It's like, what? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing with the internet, is that there's now all these new other genres that you didn't know existed. Yeah. It's like, okay, how are we going to figure this out? But if you remember, I told you my street team career started with Streetwise Concept and Culture.
Yes.
And they're the ones who actually made the Ozfest 2002 sampler.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's just and then it eventually went on to Roadrunner in the later years of Ozfest.
Well, I never noticed that Roadrunner presents Ozfest.
Yeah. Like I said, matter of fact, I actually have a collection of these things. Oh, dude, that's nothing. This are a ton of promo CDs and DVD samplers that I have collected over the years.
This is not all just Roadrunner. This is just everything.
No, this is I mean, I got stuff in here from like Silverstein to the OC from Fox.
Wow.
This is a promo DVD. Yeah.
You're an expert in collecting promo stuff.
Including OK Go before they became a music video band. But yeah, like this, I kept this stuff just because this was how people promoted themselves at concerts back in the day. It's a major part of music history. I mean, hell, like I actually have an old Powerman 5000 for when they're about to release anyone for Doomsday.
That's crazy. That's fucking bonkers. I must have got rid of all of mine from years ago. But all right, lay on some of your stories and lay on some of your experiences as the I was going to say Il Duce of the Roadrunner Road Crew. Okay,
well, when I first got the gig, it was obviously very, very exciting, and then it came time for when you want to do your own, when you want to go on assignment. And as I said, I lived in that area of New York, and I noticed that Theory of a Dead Man was coming to that area. Now, at the time, I had no idea who they were. I never heard of this band, but I was excited. Like, yeah, let's do this. So I went to the website. There was a website where you can go to select what shows you want to do. They would tell you what shows are coming to your area. You can select how long of a radius you're willing to travel. And I figured, okay, Theory of a Dead Man, here, let's try this. And you found out weeks ahead of time whether or not if you got the gig, because they would still send you out this box of swag. And then as the day got closer, they would tell you your assignment and who you're supposed to meet up with there. And in this case, I did meet up with a colleague who, sadly, don't remember her. And you would meet up at the venue and you would start doing your job. And the first thing was, of course, hang up these posters. Now, the posters, they always tell you don't hand these out to people. It's got to be for people to see. Well, the problem with that is you put one up, it comes right back down. Yeah. A fan is going to snag it. And I take pictures of people with it. I'm like, I'm telling you, I didn't give it to these people. They took it down. They wanted it. So they went, fine. But the venue can sometimes be, they'd have their own rules because you have to, the venue that we were at had just painted the walls, so they did not want you to hang up stuff. But luckily, the woman I was working with, she actually had painter's tape, so you could actually hang stuff up, and it wasn't going to tear off the paint or anything. Cool. And you have to post these things where people will see them, so you kind of have to look at where people's eyes are going and just kind of hang them up there. Like one of the best spots was, and I'm not kidding here, urinals.
Yep.
Because you're standing there at the urinal, you post a picture right there above it, boom, there you go.
Yeah, jobs are good.
Yeah, and also the town ballroom, they actually had this smokers area because I believe in New York at the time you could not smoke indoors. They might still have that law, but you would once you go into the show, you can still hang out in this area and at least hand out stickers. They did have stickers there that you could hand out to people. And you would tell, and if you knew what time they were coming on, then you would write down when they hit the stage at that time, or you just put down when doors open. So once that was done, you go in there and you enjoy the show. And I definitely enjoy Theory of a Dead Man. Like I said, their music did reflect that time and area and scene in New York. And then this girl that I was working with, because they were the headlining band, she goes, "Okay, do you want to meet the band?" Really? Yeah, sure, let's go. And turns out you just go to the back of the venue. The back of the venue was on a public road, so they couldn't just block it off. And that's where all the buses were. She goes, "Just give it a minute. Just kind of kick back, relax." And sure enough, here comes the band. And they thanked us for all our work. They signed some posters for us. And they are Canadian, and that accent of theirs did slip out from time to time. They noticed it, and they definitely had their fun with it. And as you saw in my photos, I got to meet them. I still have that signed CD to this day.
Yeah,
I did get some other things signed by them, but I did give those out to some of my friends because they knew that I was the Willy Wonka of the concert scene. And once that was done, you upload all your photos to that website. You fill out your report, send it in, and if they think you did a good job, they would reward you. They would actually send you to this other page on the website where you can actually submit what rewards you wanted. And they had stuff like autographs, DVDs, CDs. Like I remember at one point they actually had a Slipknot skate deck in there. Yeah, but me, I always went for the autographs because those I know were worth money. And the first one I got was a signed Nightwish poster.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I still have that frame to this day.
That's awesome. The thing that interests me is the fact that, because I didn't do a lot of street teaming when I was younger. I did one bit for Evil, which is a British thrash metal band, and they're a local band, so I was like, yeah, I'll do anything. And they just gave me a load of posters, and I just went up around Halifax, the real Halifax, the UK Halifax, and just banged them wherever I could, blah, 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 blah. And that was kind of it. I didn't do it anything else, but there wasn't a portal online. It was just a tube with posters in it, and you just did your thing. There wasn't even someone I contacted. There wasn't anything. So it's really interesting how there was an entire infrastructure, especially at that time, which was effectively, they must have really relied on the street teamers to get that buzz going on the local level to afford that much of a process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was, you could definitely tell just by the fact that there was street teaming back then, just how much the music industry has changed. Because everything is done online nowadays, and bands and artists are just not really making the kind of money that they used to, not just for rock, but across the board. Record sales are down across the board. It's not just rock. So when Gene Simmons says rock is dead, well, so is everything else. Because there's a friend of mine who's a session drummer, and he's the one who revealed to me that that record sales are just down across the board. So it's definitely a different game nowadays. There's still people who will do what's called e-teaming, where you do it online.
Yeah.
But as I said before, I just don't think it's as effective because, you're bombarded with ads for everything. Be it, an ad before a YouTube video to just some random ad on social media. I think it's gotten to the point where people are just are immune to that now. Yeah. They see an ad and it doesn't even affect them.
People know that people are so aware now that the journey that the ad took from its inception to in front of your screen was a series of checks and ticks and things like that to know that the person that's seeing it knows that it's designed for them. Therefore, the person seeing the ad knows that they are being sold to. Therefore, you just put an absolute blocker up. Mm-hmm. And as you say, you don't really get that when you handed a CD, which is like, take a fucking gamble. Just have a fucking go. So, sorry, go on.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so of your exploits, you've sent me a shit ton of pictures, and either you with bands or autographed things. I don't know if it's too much to go through. I don't know if you. Let's just go. Like, what's your most prized possession / picture / experience for the Road Crew? There was a shit ton. I saw some. There was a Dragon Force one, which I don't know if it was when Zippy was still singing.
Yeah, it was. What happened with that was they were coming again to Buffalo. They had just released their not Inhuman Rampage. It was the album that came out. There we go. It was that album, and they were coming back to Buffalo. And again, same shtick. I got the posters and the swag. I started handing the stuff out. Went around to the back of the venue to meet them, and they're actually very fan friendly. They'll stay out there, they'll sign autographs, they'll take pictures, they love their fans. And at the time, I was actually trying to get my own band going, but the guy I was playing with was rather egotistical. And so I asked Herman Lee, who is a pretty good shredder himself, I asked him, man, what should I do? And I'll never forget this, he goes, kick him in the nuts. I'm sorry? Kick him in the nuts and leave. Okay. And just said, we don't need any more rock stars in this business. Best advice I ever got. So that was a lot of fun, and I'll never forget. I actually got to go. I actually managed to get my way down to the barricade of the stage, and they would flick guitar picks, and I don't know how, but I just held my hand up, and one just landed right in there. And I still have that pick to this day. It was actually Frez, their bass player at the time, at least.
Hey, I got I think the exact same one. Yeah, I think it's over there somewhere. Yeah, mine's an Inhuman Rampage one.
Yeah. Let's see. There was another story where I actually did a show for Megadeth, probably one of the biggest bands that I got to work for, but it was the same venue. It was Town Ballroom. And they actually had this deal going on where if you bought their CD there at the show, you would get to meet both Daves, Mustaine and Elfson. And so I figured, okay, screw it. Why not? So I did that. And I even brought that Megadeth poster you saw, that beige one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I brought that with me for them to sign. And whenever I work a Roadrunner show, I always wore this shirt, more on this in a little bit. And I bought the CD, I got in line, I was excited, and Dave points to my shirt and goes, oh, you're with Roadrunner. Don't ever tell anybody you're with them. Why? Because they're shit. What?
That's if you've never heard Dave Mustaine speak, that's exactly how he speaks.
Yeah. And they I guess they didn't do right by him because I think he only had one album that released on that label.
I think he did one or two.
Yeah.
I think he left shortly before the time which will be referred to as the Red Wedding.
And there was, let's see, what was another? I just had it. I did a show for, oh God, this is killing me here. Well, I'll give you another one here. I did a show for a band called Medina Lake. Now, Medina Lake was one of their more alternative rock acts, which, to be fair, you do need those. Those are more accessible to people, and musicians behind the scenes still have this great deal of respect for everybody, despite what audiences say about other bands. And again, you had to place these things where people's eyes were looking. And because it's in the summer, it's hot, nobody is looking, straight ahead of them. All their heads are pointing down. So some genius for some other street team got this brilliant idea to take the posters and tape them to the road.
Excellent.
Yeah, like those little walkways you see in huge amphitheaters, they got the genius idea to tape them to the road. I call it Poster Road. And so I figured, screw it, I'll just add to it and just start taping them all down. And I had to tell my boss, like, look, this is where they were. Okay, look, here's my proof. You got Medina Lake, now you have Aiden, now you have William Control. Yeah. And they're like, really? People did that? Like, yeah, they did. And to be fair, it worked because that's where everyone's eyes were, and that's where you saw it. Yeah. And Medina Lake knew I was there. And they were doing a show on one of the side stages, the one that's like makeshift built out in the parking lot somewhere. And when they got done, they knew who I was. And they basically just kind of grab me by the shirt and go, yank! And they take me back behind the stage. They're like, hey, the guys just want to say thank you for all the work you've been doing for them. And I'm like, sweet! And I got photos with them. And oddly enough, I don't know how many people know this, but the two twins that were in that band were actually on an episode of Fear Factor.
Wow.
Yeah.
All roads lead to Joe Rogan, I see.
Yeah, it was a special twins edition, and they were trying to raise
twins edition of Fear Factor,
and they were trying to win money for their band at the time, which was called The Blank Theory, and they said Joe Rogan wanted them to sing something right there, in front of the cameras, and they say, if we come back tomorrow, we will. Well, they came back tomorrow and they had to own up. Joe made them. And the episode's on YouTube if you can find it. And it's it's hilarious because, like, shit, we got to do this for real now.
What was the main difference between Streetwise and Roadrunner? Because I know Streetwise is a third party that labels would hire them out. So it was like an engagement model thing.
Basically, with Streetwise, they would send you the stuff, but you could select which product you want to shill for. Like if you or work for, my bad. Like the first show I did for them was this band called Kittens for Christian. It was this grunge band. And awesome. Yeah, and and despite the name, they were not a Christian band, but they were signed to Serge Tankian's record label at the time, Surgical Strike Records. Yeah. So they sent me out to the Culture Room down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This was before I moved to New York. And sure enough, I got all those posters. I think I even still have a CD from them in that stack somewhere. And you would, there it is.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And if and I think it actually made people a little uncomfortable because they're wondering, who is this stranger who wants a picture of me holding this stuff? So it was a little uncomfortable for a lot of people at the time, especially because this wasn't that kind of a band. This was not the kind of, rowdy, rough band that you're there to kind of rock out. You don't care who takes a picture of you. Mm-hmm. While they were a grunge band, it's not like they were Nirvana. There was still people there who were like properly dressed because the headline act was the Ravenettes, and that's who they were mostly there to see. And I would go. They said if I did a good job, they would send me vinyl copies of System of a Down's "Steal This Album."
Oh wow!
Yeah, although I never got it. I kind of like, guys, hello. Never got it. But I still did it anyway, just because I thought, this was still fun, and I still got free concert tickets.
Yeah.
But I don't think they were as dedicated as Roadrunner was. To give one example, like when you did a job for Roadrunner, and if you didn't get your prize, and you're like contacting them like 6 months after the event, they would say, okay, you know what? That's the cutoff date here. So they were actually at least listening to these complaints that people had for when they were doing their job. Yeah. And again, you did, at least I did. I had a good relationship with my boss. Like I would actually check out the latest releases, tell him what I thought. And he, I think, was at least thrilled that I was someone who was dedicated to something like this, which I was. It was like having a job in the music industry, which was something that every teenage musician always wanted. Yeah. It got me closer to where I wanted to be.
Yeah. That's kind of the soundbite, isn't it? I think that's exactly what they set out to do with the Street Team as well.
Yeah, because like I didn't know who my boss was over at Streetwise. I didn't connect with them, but I almost want to say that I think his name was maybe Tom Hefter, if I remember correctly.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I'll write it down though.
Yeah, and I would message him, and with that I was getting a relationship with my boss, and they were getting to know me in my area, my neck of the woods, and that's what made it feel much more personal with them rather than Streetwise.
Did it feel, because you're doing socially abrasive things by making people look at the thing that you want them to look at and getting in their face with the CDs and things like that? Did that, how old were you at the time when you started that? Like, I started with Roadrunner specifically.
I want to say like I was maybe 18 or 19.
Yeah.
But it didn't really bother me because, to be honest, part of me wanted to be a performer. I still do. Yeah. So, and when you're a performer, the idea was to always get people's attention. Matter of fact, I remember this was the story I wanted to mention earlier as far as getting people's attention go. Mm-hmm. We at one point had Rob Zombie signed to Roadrunner. Yeah. And that was an exciting day. And when it came time to promote his album Hellbilly Deluxe 2, this was before he was on Mayhem. What they wanted us to do was to dress up as zombies. I am not kidding. Go to our local Hot Topic and do a zombie crawl.
Yeah, this is so of its time.
Yeah, like me and my friends are like dressed up in zombie makeup, holding this poster, going. And then when it came time for Mayhem Fest 2012, which they didn't give us tickets for, but I was going to go anyway. Mm-hmm. We found out that virtually all the bands on that tour, including Rob, was doing a meet and greet if you bought the CD. Mm-hmm. And I show up there and I tell Rob the experience, and my band at the time, we even did a couple of his songs acoustically. And so I told them that the zombie crawl, I was like, how did that go down? Like, this sounded like just as big of a joke to him as it does to you. And that was a lot of fun getting to tell him the story. And what was even better was one of my friends who was with me was my friend Steve, and his guitar hero was John 5, who we all know is with Rob. And I said to John, it's like, oh, John, the last time I met you, I told you that my friend Steve actually has your instructional DVD. Well, this is him. And John takes his hand and goes, oh, thank you. And just flutters his eyelashes at him. And my friend Steve was like, and I'm like the dad at Disney World who just took his kid there. And I was like, so what do you think, Steve? Steve, Tally, snap out of it. Like, oh, yeah, yes, okay, yeah, thank you. Yes, I learned a lot from that DVD. I definitely love it. I like to play this, that, and the other. It was so cute to see.
Do you still get starstruck?
Actually, yeah, I do, because even though I'm in my mid-30s, I'm still a fan. I always thought it was important to keep the your fanboy side and your business side separate. Once you're there working, yes, it's all business. Get down to it. You finish the job. But once that's over and the show's done, then you can kind of talk about how much of a fan you were, and then how much this music meant to you, what you got from it. So, I still get starstruck. You just got to know when it's okay to let that flag fly.
Yeah. I don't think I get starstruck anymore at all. I think because I've worked in live sound too long. I've been hardened and calloused, and I'm too cynical now. Musicians they're exhausting. they're all. I still like really enjoy music. I can speak to musicians I just speak to them on different terms now. I don't know.
Yeah.
The magic is elsewhere. It's not necessarily in like the stage. It's like it's like the production side behind the stage and things like that really impresses me, and I think that's what I get excited about.
Yeah, I actually do too, because once you get more involved, you will start to lose a little bit of that fanboy side, depending on who you are. But you will find new things to like and appreciate about it. Like for me, I still want to be backstage at a concert, standing on the side of the stage, seeing all the production moving in and out. That's what I want to see. Because I'm a firm believer that it's time to bring theatrics back to rock, because you just can't be up on stage playing your guitar and then you're done. If you want people to stop looking down their phones, you need to give them a reason to look up.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I think bands need to start doing again. There are some who are doing that I definitely applaud. And the more involved you get, the more you will find new things to appreciate. So I will say, if you love something, be careful about doing it for a living. But if you decide to do it for a living, you will find new things to like about it.
I think you're right. I think you've spoken with more experience than I have on that particular matter. In terms of like theatrics back into rock, it's quite interesting because I think I like no theatrics, but I like the minimum level of deliberate theatrics. And what that means is it's not necessarily like an Iron Maiden-esque stage, but it's like with Black Sabbath, when I saw Black Sabbath, like what was it, nearly 10 years ago now, they had like the kabuki shoots or whatever you call them. So they had like the big curtain that shrouds the stage when the band are setting up, and then it'll kick into like Black Sabbath, and then these kabuki things will go zoom, and it'll bring the entire curtain up or down really quickly. Like those, like it's a very small thing, but it enhances the experience like exponentially. That's like the stuff I'm like, yes, it's all in the timing, it's all in that little moment and the reveal, not necessarily like Ozzy hitting notes.
Yeah, I remember like the band Data Remember at one point, I think their stage set was like basically like the front side of a house, because the idea was that they were just dudes from the suburbs who played metal. But by the end of the show, they did something that was so genius, so brilliant, that I just went, how the hell did no one else think of this? And all they did was they dropped a curtain that had that giant Looney Tunes logo and said, "The End." And I'm like, how did no one else think of this? That's genius. It's so sure, it's a big curtain, but still, it's like no one else thought of this but them. It's
well, I mean, I'll tell you the story of this T-shirt, because it is kind of like it's an appropriate story for you, I think, Justin. So, 2005, Ascendancy comes out. They come to the UK.
Ozfest 2005. You saw them at Download, probably.
No, I didn't.
Really?
I actually saw them on the headlining tour.
Oh, really?
In September.
Because I know they called Download. They officially called Download Ozfest for that year in the UK.
For that day, the Saturday was Ozfest. Yeah. I remember I was in the middle of my exams because I was just a wee lad, and so I couldn't go because I think I don't know, it was like quite expensive for a Saturday ticket. I didn't have like a car or anything. But anyway, they came in for the headlining tour in September, so I went down, front row, blah blah blah. Everything's great. Roadrunner United comes out in October or November, and I'm in the States at that time, so I buy the CD, and I'm in the Mall of America in Minnesota, and Matt Heafy walks in. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, literally, I'm in the food court having a sandwich, and he's just walking past. We make eyes, and we're both like clearly in the know because I'm wearing a Maiden T-shirt and he's Matt Heafy. And then we just sort of like get on with our lives. But they came for another headlining tour the following March, and they did I'll call it a meet and greet at Bradford Rios, which was like a small sort of club venue near to where I was living. But I don't think they knew it was a meet and greet. So all these kids came into this venue and they were on stage doing sound check, and all the production guys were there just like, what the fuck's going on? We're meant to be like working. So they just went, all right, fuck it, it's karaoke time. So the people came up from the crowd to sing like The Trooper, Master of Puppets, Dying Your Arms, a few things. And I got up and sung The Trooper and Master of Puppets. And then Travis, like fucking handing out little test tubes of Jaeger. It was brilliant. I was only like 16, and Travis gave me this T-shirt. He just went to the merch stand and said, "Come here and go and pick a T-shirt." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." So it's still held up.
Well, here's my trivia story, because as I told you, that was the last show I did for Roadrunner. Yeah. Because I was moving back to Florida, and I was at the town ballroom, and I was trying to see if I can catch them before the show. And Matt Heafy, let's just say right out the bat, you can't miss this guy. Out the back door, there's like one of those tiny little square windows with like bulletproof glass. So that was the only chance he had to make eye contact. So I'm like on my tippy toes, kind of peeking through, and I'm holding up the poster and a Sharpie. He's like, I'm like, give me 1 second. And he finishes up, and then he and the rest of the band comes out. They sign the posters and everything. And I told them that I was with Roadrunner. I was there to work their show. They thanked me for my efforts. And then they told me to hang around the show afterwards. Mm-hmm. So the show finishes up. They find me, and they drag me backstage up to this office room. And I am just geeking out because I never had a meet and greet like this. And when I start doing that, I go into what I call stand-up mode, because I consider myself to be an amateur comedian. And one of the bands they had there was a band called After the Burial, and they were a Canadian band. And if you know anything about Canada, one of their biggest exports is the Trailer Park Boys.
Oh God, yeah.
And I got this After the Burial guitar pick, and on the back it had a picture of Bubbles. I think I still have the pick too. And this girl who was meeting the band said that she hit some. I think she said she hit a cat on the way over. Like, you killed Steve French. How could you? Who was a cat in the show? Yeah. And I am I'm cracking jokes and everything, and the band, they are just laughing it up. It's like, dude, this guy's got a knack for comedy. And it's like, oh, thank you. And just told them that I would just watch stand-up DVDs over and over again to learn how to set up a joke, deliver a punchline. And they're like, hold on, motherfucker, we got to get you like a drumstick here. And sure enough, they give me a drumstick, they give me a guitar pick. Mm-hmm. And it was time for, the big picture. And so I take off my hat, I go stand next to them, strike the pose. And the manager's like, you might want to put the hat back on. Like, really? Hat hair? I should really just shave myself. And Matt is trying so hard not to laugh that I just started talking in ventriloquism talk. I just went, shut up, dude, you know what I mean? And the guy has been following me on Twitter ever since. He probably doesn't remember. Yeah, he probably doesn't remember me, but the fact that I was able to get the band to crack up like that, well, that was a pretty fun feeling.
It's cool how they kind of, when they see the street teamers, because they won't be instructed to be that nice. They'll just know, all right, these are the people that have been supporting the shows, on day in, day out.
Yeah, matter of fact, I don't even think they knew that a street teamer was going to be there. Matter of fact, there was actually one time they sent me out to a show with no swag at all. Mm-hmm. So it was for a band called Young the Giant. I think this is one of their more indie bands. Yep. And I met with the band. With them,
I think
they might. And I just said to my boss, like, hey, where's the swag? What am I supposed to do? Like, oh, just go to the show, have fun. Really? So I go there, and I would meet up with a band, tell them I was with Roadrunner, and they were always surprised when someone from Roadrunner was there. And I said, yeah, the weird thing is that they didn't send any swag for me to promote the show with. Which, like, really? Like, yeah, I don't get it. Like, am I just here to see how you guys are live? They never said. I didn't even get a report from them, or a request for a report as to how the show was. I just got a free show out of the deal. And they weren't even the headlining act. This band called Minus the Bear was. They were the headline act, and they actually sold out the venue, which was surprising.
They're on Electra now, Young the Giant.
Okay. But one of the more, I do have stories that are not directly connected to Roadrunner, but indirectly. Cool. Like, this is perhaps my best one. As you know, at one point they had Dream Theater, perhaps the kings of progressive metal, and still are. and we got stuff to promote the CD. They weren't on tour yet, so I would go out there, hand out the stuff, and they were coming to my neck of the woods, but they didn't have a spot available for a street teamer, and they just said that, oh no, we didn't get a ticket for this tour. Like, shit. And the show was sold out. It was actually during their tour with Iron Maiden. They had an off show with this opening band called ZO2 from New York City, and I just thought, man, what am I going to do? Because, I'd love to meet them. I want their autograph. Mm-hmm. And my friend Don, who has worked shows before, said, try getting there in the morning, because most bands will do a morning sound check. So get there in the morning, get their autograph, their photos, and then you can just go home. So the venue was 90 minutes from where I lived, and I got there like maybe 8 o'clock in the morning. I didn't know what time they were coming in. And so I'm just sitting there out the back of the venue. Then 2 hours go by and the bus pulls in. Figured, okay, here they are. It's their roadies. Oh well, just keep waiting. And I brought a bunch of electronics with me to keep me occupied. But then one of the roadies comes up to me and goes, "Are you trying to meet the band?" "Yeah." "They're not going to be here till 4. Okay, well, like, screw it. I've come this far. They went, "Yeah, go get something to eat, and they'll be here." Mm-hmm. So I go get something to eat. I come back, and all my electronics start dying on me. The battery starts going low.
No.
I'm like, shit. Now I got to conserve all this stuff. And then by 5, and keep my doors open at 7. The band and Dream Theater is still not there, but the opening band shows up, ZO2, and I'm hanging out with them. I'm telling them my story. Like, what? You've been here since 8 in the morning and it's 5? What are you? And like I said, the show was sold out. So they go in for their sound check. The singer, Paulie Z, turns around and says, "Look, I can't believe you've been here for this long just to meet Dream Theater. So I'll tell you what, give us your name, your first and last name. We'll put you on our guest list so you can get in." They gave me a free ticket to the show.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like I couldn't believe, like, now, like I'm actually going to get to see Dream Theater. So
that's great.
6 o'clock rolls by. They're still not here. Doors open in an hour. Like, I have been here since 8 in the morning. Where are they? And they don't show up until 6:30.
Wow.
They were cutting it close. And
sneaking in.
Yeah, they all meet me. I tell them my story, and they are all flabbergasted. Like, "You've been here since that long? Why? What for?" I'm like, "I didn't know what time you were coming in. I want your autograph. I want to get some stuff signed for me and some of my friends. I don't know." And I remember when I was meeting their keyboard player, Jordan, he was signing some posters for me. I said, "Yeah, they just didn't have a show booked for me to work." And he goes like, "Well, that was fucking rude of them." And I meet Mike Portnoy, and I tell him that, yeah, I've been here since 8 in the morning. And matter of fact, I'm diabetic. He goes like, "Dear God, go get something to eat. I don't want you passing out on my conscience." I meet John Mayung, and let me just say, that guy has a grip that can crush a walnut. I meet John Petrucci and his son. His son was actually there. I went like, "Yeah," I went, "That's your dad?" "Yes." Lucky. And again, like, they're all just shocked that they couldn't believe I've been there for that long. But James didn't come out of the bus. Mike Portnoy walks back out and says, like, "Look, he's not going to come in until like 15 minutes till we hit the stage. So you better go in there, get yourself a good seat." So I'm thinking, what am I going to do here? Because I don't want to miss the guy. Like, this could be my chance. I don't know how they operate. But the opening band did give me that ticket. The least I can do is see their set. Yeah. So I get the idea that I'm going to come out when they do their encore. Yeah. So just leave all that stuff in my car, go in and get a seat. And I got pretty close. I was like maybe 3 rows back from the stage. ZO2 hits the stage, and they bring out Mike Portnoy to do Tom Sawyer. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Cool.
And then, their set ends, the curtain closes, and I used to have this little flashlight, it's about the size of a laser pointer, that was actually a Korn flashlight, where if you shine it, it projected the Korn logo. So when the curtains closed, I pull out this light and I shine it onto the curtain, and everybody in the audience is going, "What the hell's Korn doing here? We hear you see Dream Theater. Is Korn showing up? What's going on?" And I am just sitting there trying not to laugh, because I can't believe that all this is happening. And then suddenly the guy next to me is like, dude, like they're on to you, like, oh, I don't know what's going on. Like, is Corn scheduled to be here? And then suddenly it's they hit the stage, and to describe seeing them live, this is how I've always summed it up. It's like seeing a magic trick performed without the curtain drawn, but there's still magic. You're not seeing the secret. It's still magic. Because just seeing them like up that close, shredding like that, it was like, is that possible? Because you look through this on like a YouTube video, and you have to wonder if there's some sort of like camera tricks going on here. But no, like it's actually them. And I'll never forget like wrapping my my arms around the guys next to me and went, "Life was so simple." And keep in mind, I am covered in sweat. Okay, like I am sweating from places I did not know I had pores. And so I had a blast with the show. They come out for the encore, and I dash out to my car. I dash out to my car, grab everything, the posters, the CDs, the Sharpies, everything. And I'm seeing the roadies there, and they actually said something that was pretty cool to me. They said if that opening band did not give me a ticket, they would have snuck me in. And at first I'm thinking, right. I went, yeah, right. Like, no, seriously, dude, you earned your spot in there. And that was the first time I ever felt like I had legitimately earned respect. No, because like people seem to just throw out that word, and I think it's lost a lot of its meaning. But this was the first time I knew where I had earned it. And that was an incredible feeling. So we're waiting out back by the buses. There's this swarm of people. And I see some security guard kind of go, come out, take a look. It's like, okay, we got like maybe like 15, 20 kids here. But you know what? There's been this one kid who's been here since like 8 a.m. Look, he's earned this dude's autograph, okay? And then I see James coming out with a security guard. I go running up to this guy, and the guard goes, whoa, 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 buddy. You're first. And keep in mind, it's like 11 o'clock at night. And I'm telling him my story. Again, he couldn't believe it. All these kids want to meet him, but turns out I'm the only one who brought a Sharpie. So I'm like, go ahead. I'll
that's till midnight.
So it's like midnight rolls around, if not later. And he signs everything. He takes pictures. He caps the Sharpie and goes, now go home. I did not get home till like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh man!
And my parents, my siblings, they're like, "Why are you so pink?" Well, turns out that's what happens when you stand in front of a giant reflective tour bus for hours on end.
Wow!
And I actually sent a message to Mike Portnoy on Cameo asking if he remembered that night and me. Yep, he does. That was perhaps one of my best stories from Roadrunner.
That's great. Let's bring this one into the station, Justin. So I sent you some questions. I don't know if you've done any prep thinking about your 5 best or 5 favorite Roadrunner records. Lay it on me. Let's hear it.
Okay, for the first one, I'd have to give it to number 5, Porcupine Tree's The Incident.
Cool.
Because I actually have a bit of a story with this one. For one of the prizes, I selected Porcupine Tree's autograph. Again, autographs, that's immediately what I go for. And I got the prize in the mail, but it was just a signed CD booklet. There was no CD. So I go to a Best Buy, and I see the CD there, and I buy it to check it out. I open it up and realize, oh, wow, this is a 2 CD combo. Not a lot of bands do this nowadays. Mm-hmm. So I take the first CD to pop in just to find out the first CD is 1 hour long song. Now it's in sections. You can skip tracks, but that was the first time I experienced in what I call an arc song, a song that has multiple parts. And when they actually came to Buffalo, they didn't have a ticket for that show for the street team, but I still want to go back there to the show and meet them. And I'm having the band sign all my posters. And they're like, you're going to be the best friend anyone's ever fucking had. You know that? And when the band first gets on stage, they say the whole, please no pictures. Like, oh, God, am I going to deal with an egoholic on this one? But no, they weren't. Because when the first thing they did was play that 1 hour long song. then took a 10-minute break. They literally had a digital counter projected on stage that was counting backwards from 10 minutes.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, and when that was over with, that's when you could say it became a party. And I actually sent Steve Wilson, the frontman, a message saying that how much I enjoyed the show. That was my first prog rock show. And I was really glad to see that they weren't egoholics. They were just doing this giant hour-long song. They were setting a mood. They're like, oh, cheers. I'm glad you like that. And so that album does hold a special place in my heart.
That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah. Now, for the second one, I have to go, or number 4, I'd have to say Spineshanks, The Height of Callousness.
Awesome.
Because, yeah, I thought Spineshank was a band that deserved a lot more credit than they should have gotten. Because for those who haven't heard the album, it starts off with one of the best bangers I have ever heard. I mean, you hear this thing and you literally want to start banging your head, letting your hair sway in the air. And when the first song ends, it just ends with a scream and then cuts immediately to the next one, and it just does not stop. This was non-stop in your bang your head metal. And I just thought they deserved so much more credit than they should have. Like they did the third stage at Ozfest 2001, but I just wish they brought them back because that album was just fantastic.
Yeah, I think it got rooted in the new metal glut, which people sort of don't revere as much as they're doing. It's seeing a kind of resurgence these days, so you never know. You might get lucky. Well,
I think the thing with new metal, because that was my era, and I stand behind it. I love new metal. I do. I love new metal. I love Limp Bizkit. I don't think they deserve the hate they got. And I can see you smirking. It's like, oh God, this guy.
No, it wasn't my. I was a little bit after, but every time Roland appears in every single club on a Friday night. So I don't think the hate it gets is well founded. I'm smirking because I'm nostalgic.
Okay, you can edit that part out if you want.
No, it's cool.
Just because that's the reaction I usually get, at least here in the States. But I think with new metal, they didn't really quite know what to do with it because it was so focused on grooves rather than shredding licks that I think they figured that any band that just had a groove, you shove into that category, whether it was worthy or not. Because I remember one of the characteristics was detuned guitars replaced guitar solos. And yet Godsmack, a band who has a solo in almost every other song, still got shoved into that category. So I just think you had this boom that happened. Nobody knew what to do with all these bands, and they just shoved them into that category.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, because like a band like Disturbed, like they got shoved into that, and sure, they didn't have licks, but they didn't really have grooves either.
No, like it was a bit more. No, it's its own thing.
Yeah. So I never saw
describe it.
Yeah, so I don't consider them to be new metal. And sadly, lots of bands got lost in that shuffle. From them to Alien Ant Farm. Like I felt like Alien Ant Farm, they had a new metal hit with Smooth Criminal, but if you listen to the rest of that CD, they're more of a Warped Tour band. Yeah,
they still go though. They're still going.
Yeah,
not exactly recognized for what they're doing these days.
Okay, let's see. For number 3, now keep in mind, I'm only counting records that have actually been released on the label. If a band has a record that was released later in their catalog but was better than that album, I'm not going to count it.
I appreciate that.
It has to be on Roadrunner.
We're shilling for a company here, not for a band.
So for number 3, I have to give it to Hatebreed's Supremacy.
Yep.
That was a great album, and I was familiar with Hatebreed, but didn't they were around, but I never quite heard them. I didn't really start noticing them until maybe Ozfest 2006 or 7. Although, matter of fact, when they were headlining Ozfest 2002 at the second stage, I managed to get my way backstage over the second stage, and them and Down were having a barbecue back there.
Awesome.
Yeah, it is. But I just I liked the attitude and Jasta's vocal delivery, and how they are, when you really read the lyrics, they're actually kind of a more positive band about, conquering your demons or rising above a situation, and yet still being tough and brutal. I thought that was actually rather incredible.
I thought the hardcore leanings do come out a little bit more poignantly on that album. In the way that you said there, it is a little bit more positivity through anger.
Yeah, it's because I know metal has this. Well, to be fair, a correct stereotype of being angry, but it is good to find a way to tap into that anger without being anger. And it's hard to do that, especially when you get older, because you do start to lose. You do start to lose that that anger within you. Which is probably one of the reasons why I like Ice Nine Kills, because they managed to tap into that by singing about horror films.
Yeah.
So let's see, was that
was number 3? So you're on number 2.
Okay, number 2. I'm going to have to give it to Kill Switch Engage, The End of Heartache, because I actually preferred Howard Jones over Jesse Leach, just because I, for one, thought he had a better tone with his voice.
Cool.
But also, I like the fact that he just wore his emotions on his sleeve. Mm-hmm. It's like, look, this is what I went through. This is what I'm singing about. You can take it or leave it. If you don't like it, hey, no hard feelings. That's what I appreciate about that record. Because, again, it's heavy, but they are singing about heartfelt things. Mm-hmm. And that is, again, something you will start to feel as you get older. So that record, I'd have to say, it would have to be on number 2.
I say that's it's an essential record, that one. If anyone hasn't heard it, definitely.
Yeah. Now, I do have to make at least an honorable mention here, because I want to put this band on there.
Sure.
But for an honorable mention, I'd have to give it to Slipknot's Subliminal Verses Volume 3.
Sweet.
Because I like the challenge that record presented. It's old news, but one of Slipknot's critics said, all he does is just drop the F-bomb over and over again. But Corey wanted to prove to himself that he wasn't just that he actually could write thought-provoking lyrics. Mm-hmm. So he made that record without any cursing whatsoever. And like I said, I used to work at Walmart, and people would come up to me and go like, "Hey, the new Slipknot." Oh, wait, it's censored. I go, actually, and then went, "Wait, you mean this isn't censored?" Nope, you can actually get it for that price, $11.88 instead of going over to FYE and getting it for $17.
Wow,
sweet! And they would buy it. So I like that record for how creative it is. I do. But so for my number 1. I'd have to give it to not the latest release, but the release before this current one from Korn.
Okay.
The Serenity of Suffering, I think it was called. Mm-hmm. Because
I'll check.
Yeah, because Korn, they were the band. There were 4 bands who introduced me into the world of heavy metal. That was Korn, Godsmack, Rob Zombie, and Rammstein. And when the band that I was vouching for got them, it was like a dream come true. I got to promote 2 of my favorite things at once, and that was an album where they actually got head back, and their sound was just better than ever. And matter of fact, I even play 7-string guitars like they do, and so that would probably have to be my favorite record from Roadrunner. Plus, not to mention, they got Corey Taylor to make an appearance on there. Mm-hmm. And while their latest album, The Nothing, is good, if you're not careful, this album is so depressing, it will take you down with it. That's what I said about the album. And to be fair,
I think it, Path of Totality.
No, I think it was called The Nothing, because the Path of Totality was their dubstep album.
Oh, okay. Sorry, hang on. Where are we, Korn? I was looking for the one with
that white background with a dude falling. Let me see.
Oh yeah, the Nothing being
yeah. Which, to be fair, was a rough album for Jonathan because he lost his wife. So it's no wonder why that album was so depressing.
Sorry, I didn't know it was a Roadrunner one. Roadrunner one.
Yeah. There was one album they released that in their later years that was not on Roadrunner, and that was the Paradigm Shift.
Yes.
That I don't know what happened with that album, but to be honest, I thought while the album was good, it was still kind of forgettable. Like, I don't really remember any songs off that album. But so I'd have to say Korn's Serenity of Suffering is my number one album from Roadrunner.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry, yeah, I found it now. I just spent all this time just trying to look for it. No, that's a very interesting and eclectic mix there, Justin. That's the same question to Stephen Hill, and his sensibilities were more in the 90s, so it was all about like Sepultura and Typo Negative, and it's interesting to see the idea of that question, especially when you ask it, or I ask it to people who aren't Roadrunner personnel or Roadrunner artists, is to really get that spectrum of just how impactful the label is, because it's across all eras and across different bands.
It really is, and I was never against them wanting to experiment with getting like more alternative rock or indie rock bands, because it is still a business. While the music is still art, at the end of the day, it is still a business, and there's no telling, whether or not this band could be the next big thing. I mean, I remember I told you that there was one band I got to work for called Taking Dawn that they didn't make as big of an impact. I think the way the label saw it was they got that great song in the God of War 3 soundtrack. I thought maybe they could ride that wave, but at the end of the day, it didn't stick. And as heartbreaking as it is for a lot of hopefuls, the truth of the matter is that there is no guarantee with this business. You could do everything right, and there is still no guarantee if you're going to be a star or not.
And you got to put the shoe on the other foot as well, because one thing the business does is it seeks out the bands that people are going to like, but it doesn't catch it all the time. So if you take your favorite band in the entire world, like to get AC/DC or something like that, the more you start learning about the industry, the more you realize there's probably a band out there that's 10 times better than AC/DC that no one will ever hear because the business didn't impact it, or it didn't quite fall into the net.
Yeah. And like I said, I think Spineshank could have been one of those bands. I think they could have at least been as big as Static X, in my opinion. So to the point where they may not be selling out arenas, but they would be at least mainstream names in the metal circle. Yes. And just my time with Roadrunner was definitely some of the best days of my youth. I got to go to concerts for free. I got to shill for bands and even got to meet a lot of them. I mean, how many people can say they got to see Rob Zombie and Alice Cooper for free?
Why did you leave the Road Crew then?
Well, what basically happened was that I had moved to Florida. Now, and at the time when I was growing up down here, Florida was still a big hotspot for music. And then roughly around 2013, I kind of realized that something was happening with the music scene. And what was the biggest indicator was actually the Mayhem Festival. While I definitely loved that festival, I just noticed that they got the same two headliners over and over again, which were Slipknot, who did it like 3 times, and Rob Zombie, who did it twice out of the 8 years they were around.
Right.
And I just kind of was like, wait, there's so many other bands. Why aren't you getting them? And I just noticed that these festivals were getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Like when Ozfest 2010 happened, that was a very bare bones festival. There wasn't as many vendors. There was like only maybe 6 stops. Now, granted, the main stage lineup was pretty cool. I mean, there was Ozzy, Crew, Halford. So that was pretty wicked.
Yeah.
But I just noticed that things were just getting smaller. And by the time I moved back to Florida, because I felt like maybe just Buffalo was dying.
Right.
So I get to Florida, and that's when I had noticed that things just ended. Mayhem Fest stopped, Uproar stopped, Warped Tour recently just came to an end. And that's when I just noticed that these festivals are being reduced to these one city weekend festival shows that didn't come anywhere near me. And none of these, not even a single regular tours did. And I'm just wondering, like, what am I going to do? Like, that was a big part of my identity. That was who I was.
Yeah.
And not to mention, I thought metal was getting a bit too heavy. Like, it just seemed like metal was becoming a pissing contest. It just seemed like to be who could be heavier than the next, more brutal than the next, tune lower than the next, be faster than the next. To the point where I just said, guys, stop. I cannot tell you all apart anymore. Stop trying to reinvent the wheel and just write a song. We will move on from there. And so I just lost touch. And my boss had left the road crew at the time.
Right.
And in matter of fact, just recently, I went to check on the road crew, see if things were still going on. And while you can still sign up, I noticed that the Twitter has not been active since 2019. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Not a good sign. I think their Instagram has not been active since 2020, which, to be fair, COVID could be a reason, but still, you think they would at least be promoting, the latest new releases.
Yeah, you think they'd be just doing the rounds on the, for everything else.
And even when I tried submitting again, it's been a few days and I hadn't heard back. So part of me does wonder if the road crew is done.
That's crazy.
It is.
Mental.
It is. And these one city weekend shows, like, I gotta say, part of me does not like it, just because the festivals, they came to you. It was a giant, like, summer camp, and they're like, especially with Ozfest, they would update you with videos and interviews and bands talking about the album, talking about the tour. In a way, it felt like a summer metal camp, heavy metal camp.
Mm-hmm.
But now that's been reduced to this. A lot of the magic is gone.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people want to point to Napster and Spotify, and believe me, I get that. However, I just think another big reason why things fell by the wayside is that, frankly, internet and YouTube. You could pay X amount of money to see Sabaton, or you could just watch Markiplier play the latest Five Nights at Freddy's. And I think if there's one thing I would like to say to metal bands and musicians out there, is that you do have to make a better connection with the youth. That's why I like what Matt Heafy's doing with being a Twitch streamer.
Yeah.
Just like with Herman Lee. By doing that, they're on the platform where a lot of kids are. They're playing their instruments. They're working with other musicians on YouTube. And I think that's going to be the way bands will have to get themselves noticed. Just to make a name for yourself on those platforms before jumping out into the concert music scene.
Yeah. It's the dynamic's completely changed. I heard one person say that the live stream gig is going to be the new live album, and I was like, well, you know what? That doesn't sound too unremarkable if you think about the live albums of, say, like the mid-90s, late 90s, when they were just fucking loud. You could hear the crowd and all of them. And it didn't really happen in the same way for the following 10 years. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was the way it went.
Yeah, when they started doing these live stream performances, I thought that was actually brilliant, because
it's good.
Because I know a lot of people want to, especially Mike Portnoy wants to point the finger at Spotify, but according to, I think it was the Black Keys, they said, like, guys, look, the label is the one who leases these songs to us, and we pay them for it, and the label is the one who pays the bands. Mm-hmm. So now if you're your own artist and you're going through Spotify, then yeah, you do have to deal with them personally. But that's something that you have to learn how to do. You need to learn how to be a good negotiator. That's what Misha from Periphery does. He negotiates all their own contracts. He knows what he's worth. He knows how much he can pull in. Mm-hmm. And with that, he can use to get the kind of money he's asking for. Matter of fact, I would highly recommend people check out, and this guy's not paying me, I just learned a lot from him, to check out the Punk Rock NBA.
I laugh because I literally just started listening to that. Like literally about 2 days ago.
Yeah, Finn McKenty, the host of it, you can actually reach out to him pretty easily on Instagram and see if he'll be on your podcast, because he's very approachable. Yeah. And he made just a lot of good points, and just something made me go, you know what, the business end is now in our hands. Now we can figure out how to promote this stuff, but you got to put in that work. So if you want more money, more of the profits, you can get it, but you have to be willing to take on the risk and do the work. Now you can, the option to sign up with a merch team or a label is there, but you still have to read that contract. So I think we're just right now in a transitioning period, and we're just now starting to figure out what to do. So I do think better days are ahead of us.
I think there's another there's a few people who said this to me in the process of this project, and it's a bit of a throwaway phrase, but people tend to say there's never been more money in metal. There's just never been more money in it. And I think that's mostly down to like the vinyl bundle element of it. I think that side of it has exploded in ways they didn't anticipate. And I think you're right in that we're in a transitional period, and I'm not trying to say the money is returning to the industry. I'm just saying that the way that the money is traveling through the industry is different. And people's incentive structure and what they're going to spend money on is different. So they just see what it settles on.
Yeah, I actually think the main reason for the vinyl boom doesn't really have to do with the sound. I think what it has to do is you have this big product in your hand.
It's the same as what you were saying with the promo CDs.
Yeah, like here, check this out, and you have this nice fully rendered picture here. It's professionally made. Compare that to just a thumbnail on your phone.
Yeah,
it's not very impactful. You look at a vinyl record, and it's much bigger. Mm-hmm. Regardless, I personally don't care if people prefer vinyl over digital. The band's making money. That's all I care about. But I think a big reason why vinyl came back in vogue is just because it's big.
Yeah,
I mean, you see a billboard on the side of the road, it gets your attention because it's big. Mm-hmm. Rammstein, they pull your eyes at their show because it's big. And fire helps too. I'm not gonna lie.
Right, dude. Let's bring this one into the station. Is there anything I've missed in terms of like in stories, anecdotes, or anything like that?
Let's see here. There were times when let's see here. When I was doing that Taking Dawn show, it was a headline tour with Nonpoint and In This Moment, and they were selling this own little VIP package. I figured, wonder if I can get the job for the show, then I don't have to buy a ticket and I could just get the VIP package, which combined was maybe $75, but I got the job. And so I just got the VIP package, which is $45.
Right.
So save money there. Yeah, that worked. Meeting Limp Bizkit, that was a trip for me because I was definitely there for all that. And Fred's actually very approachable. He's not what a lot of people said he was back then. And I told him what all these songs meant to me and what I loved about it. And I just said, total nerdgasm. And he goes, what's a nerdgasm? It's like, and I will say too, their drummer, John Otto, he's actually pretty short. He's small, and Wes Borland, he is still a fantastic guitarist. I asked, dude, do you still play 7 strings? Nah, I just went back to 6. I went, traitor. Yeah, that was a big joy for me. And they asked me, what did you think of the show? I couldn't attend. And they were stunned, why couldn't you go to the show? Well, I work at a hospital and they get first dibs on my time. And I think they were bummed out that this Uber fan didn't get to go. And I said, hey, if I can't attend the show, then I would at least like to meet the band. And I couldn't have been happier. They even gave me free guitar picks.
Yeah. Another result.
Yep. But perhaps the biggest gig that I got to do for Roadrunner was the Uproar tour. That was its first year. And for me, that felt like the biggest show that I got to do because they were sponsoring the tour. They had this tent. They were promoting I know Stone Sour and Airborne were on the bill. And what was funny about that experience for me was at the time, I had just taken my friend Steve Kelly to Mayhem Fest in 2010, where he got to meet his guitar hero. We got to go backstage to meet Korn. He got to meet Randy Bly from Lamb of God.
Sweet.
And we worked at the same McDonald's at the time. And so it's like a couple of days after, he's back home, I'm back home. It's time to go to work. I walk in the door and I notice he's got this tiny little crowd of people with him, and he's telling them what happened at the show. And as soon as I walk in, he goes, "That's him!" And these people come right up to me. It's like, dude, can you take me to a show? Can you? And sadly, a lot of these people either can't afford to go or they, pardon the quote here, chicken out. But there was one guy who was willing to take on the risk, and his name was Patrick. And now at the time, I didn't know if I was going to be working the show or not, but I still bought a pre-sale ticket, and so did Steve. Mm-hmm. And I found out that I got the show. So I told Patrick, okay, this is what we're going to do here. Now I'm going to give you a printout of my ticket. It was one of those printout ones. Yep. And because I'm working with Roadrunner, I'm going to get let in with a sponsor's pass. So I'm going to take this ticket, make you a copy, and that's how you're going to get in. Now, the thing here is to, number one, act like you belong. Because if your eyes are darting around, they're going to think something's up. If you're on edge, they know something's wrong. So the goal here is to act like you belong. And when the main stage starts, the only thing I ask is do not take the seat that ticket belongs to. That's mine. I paid for it. Just find a seat that has no butt in it, and you'll be good. Just act like you belong. So we get to the venue. I'm setting up. They are at the gate, and his heart is pounding. And sure enough, beep. All right, have fun. And he just walks in like, that's it, beep, and walks Steve. Yeah, that's it. That's done, man. I told you. He knows. And then they go run and goes, oh my God, Justin, I can't believe that worked. But he was still flipping out because he can't believe that he just got into the show for free. Wow. And it started with the second stage, and the band Hell Yeah was performing, and they are crowd surfing. This guy can't. I'm seeing him like from the 10, and he is just losing his mind over this. And we were scheduled to meet Stone Sour, but sadly they left before we could meet them. But I wasn't really bummed out about that because I had met them already. If anything, I was more interested in meeting Hell Yeah because I wanted to meet Vinnie Paul. So I was able to get away from the tent and meet him there. And when it came time for Airborne, for some reason, one of the swag packs we got was these Airborne matchbooks. But you open up the matchbooks, and there were condoms in there.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so the band was called Airborne. They're on the stage, and I get this brilliant idea. I go, Airborne condoms, Airborne condoms, Airborne condoms, just chucking them into the air. Go, practice on your mom or your sister or your pocket pussy. Choose one. And the representative is just losing her mind. It was the funniest thing she heard. I have no idea why they went with condoms. The only conclusion I could come to, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it was said on the show called Mansers that used to be Spike TV, but supposedly Australia, which is where they're from, has more threesomes than any other continent.
Okay,
yeah, so maybe that has something to do with it. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people probably use those condoms and now have kids. So, but that was, yeah. But when they met Stone Sour, they were freaking out. I was like, dude, Corey Taylor gave me the finger. I can't believe it. It's like, wait, where did he put it? Okay, good. And then, as the show's over, we're driving home. These guys are hanging out the sides of my car window. They're going, yeah, bro. I literally felt like a dad who just took their kid to Disney. I thought it was the cutest damn thing ever. And I did another show for Times of Grace, which was a side project of Mike D and Jesse Leach from Killswitch Engage. Mm-hmm. And the show was out in a city called Syracuse, and it was 2.5 hours from my house. Not that far in the grand scheme of things, but pretty far out there. And so I get there, and my name is not on the guest list. Went, uh-oh. Now, this was a tightly packed town, so the buses were not parked behind the venue. They were not parked in front of the venue. They were parked behind other stores in the town. It's like, fuck, where do I go here? It's like, so I'm knocking on doors, like, are you with Times of Grace? Are you with Times of Grace? Are you with Times of Grace? And finally, I get to the right bus. And they said, oh, yeah, they forgot to tell us that you were coming. Well, no biggie. And the guy puts me on the guest list and then gives me like one of those little stick-on VIP passes. Yeah. Yeah, so I meet up with the band before the show, and I said, okay, you guys are not going to release one album and then break up, are you? Because I used to always hate it when bands do that, which in the grand scheme of things was kind of mean on my part. And they're like, we don't plan on it. Like, okay, good. And I just turned my back to them, facing their merch booth. I'm just kidding. You know I'm going to buy your album. I was going to give. Of course, I'm going to buy your album. I wasn't going to let you off that easily. But of course, I had them sign my CD. I bought the CD there. I had them sign it. I had them sign some posters for me and my friends. And then after the show, we're all hanging out at a bar that's right next to the venue. They're just celebrating they're having a good show. I'm there with a bunch of drunken rock stars doing magic tricks for them because I am also a trained magician. As I said, I am a performer, and I do this trick where I shove a pen up my nose, then pull it out of my mouth. And when you do that to a bunch of drunks at a bar, they notice. But yeah, that show was a good trip. I remember Under Oath was actually headlining that show, but that was also the first time I saw Mike D use a 7-string guitar. And I even said to him, like, I said, I think you actually sound better with a 7-string. He goes, "That's why I'm using one." Wow. So that was a lot of fun. I did get to do Mayhem Fest 2013, but there wasn't a Roadrunners tent. They just had us put up banners around the venue. And I'm like, okay, what next? Nothing. Enjoy the show. Really?
I guess that's post Warner though, isn't it? That's 2013.
Yeah, that was, like I said, that's when I noticed things were starting to go on the decline.
Yeah.
There was one other festival. Well, it was supposed to be a festival, but the weather canceled it out. I think it was called Disturbed's Tattoo the Earth Festival, or maybe it was. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, the way how that worked is that all the opening bands you could actually see for free. They were performing in the parking lot, but because it was so windy, they had to cancel that side of the show out. But the main bands who were performing in the arena, you still got to see. So there weren't any refunds for that show. And I was there still with Kill Switch swag, handing that stuff out, just doing my thing. But I didn't get to meet them for that show, which didn't bother me because I had met them previously. Let someone else take it for now. And I'm trying to remember if there was any other stories from my time with Roadrunner. Meeting Slipknot, that was a trip, but I didn't get any a ticket for that show. I just it was one of the off shows for Mayhem Festival. Mayhem Fest for some reason didn't always come to Buffalo, but the headlining acts did, and we called it Mini Mayhem. And I remember
on an off day or something like that.
Yeah, I remember Clown was actually doing a signing for his Slipknot photo album. And I was actually walking around with not just this, but it was an IB Anorexia t-shirt that I told you about. I was walking around for that show wearing that shirt because it always gets a response. But I had this fake VIP laminate. It just came with this merchandise box set that I got from Hot Topic. And their crew was panning on it. They went, "Where'd you get that? Where'd that come from?" Like, why? What's it to you? Like, because if someone's handing out fake VIP passes, we gotta do something. Like, okay, no, look, I see it's fake. See, it's not really. Oh, okay, good. Phew. Like, yeah, like this came with just a Hot Topic merchandise bundle. Like, okay, good. But as you can tell, I still got to meet Slipknot through their fan club outside the 9. And I do that trick for Mick Thompson with a pen, and he goes, "Fuck! You call me when you can do that with your dick." Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I got to live a lifestyle that so many people dream of doing, and I wouldn't have traded it for anything in the world.
I'm with that.
Yeah. I think that's it in terms of stories. I'll be kicking myself in the ass if I come up with one later that I forgot to tell for this.
That is cool, man.
Yeah, but that's the best way I can sum it up is, though, I got to live the lifestyle so many people wanted. I got to go to the concerts for free. I got to chill for bands, and I even got to meet them. Like, there was nothing more a teenage metalhead could ever ask for.
Yeah. And with that, mate, I'll close it out. Well, thank you very much for joining me and regaling with the other side of this whole shindig, the fan side.
Glad that you had me.